What are the temperaments and why they matter?
One of the things that temperaments is really great at, it puts a pause to the temptation to judge somebody who's different from you as being bad.
Can your temperament change as you age and mature?
We kind of know intellectually that everybody's different, but until I knew about temperaments, I really did think art was just like me, only bad.
That it is the least self-confident temperament. They're the nicest, they get along with people, they're cooperative, but that's the challenge.
It's so powerful because once you get a sense for what is the motivating approach for this unique human being, you can unlock greatness. You can unlock so many things.
Right.
Do you know your temperament? Did you know that understanding your temperament and the temperament of the people that you love or the people that you work with can be a huge key to unlocking better relationships and your own personal growth? Today on the Lila Rose Show, I sit down with Art and Laraine Bennett, who are the authors of multiple books on temperaments, including the flagship book, The Temperament That God Gave You. Art is also a family and marriage therapist, as well as the former CEO of Catholic Charities and other organizations. And his lovely wife, Laraine, is an author, speaker, and a master's in philosophy. Also, thank you all so much for your incredible support of the Lila Rose Show and this growing community. I'm so excited that we are at over 300,000 subscribers here on YouTube and growing every single day. Please share this podcast with a friend. Make sure you yourself are already subscribed and share it with other people. It helps the show grow. And if you're listening on podcast app, don't forget to leave us a review, give us 5 stars. That also helps the podcast reach more people. Art and Laraine Bennett, thank you so much for joining the podcast.
Gosh, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here.
Really an
Thank
honor
you.
to be here.
This is a treat for me because I first read your books at least 15 years ago, if not longer.
Yeah.
And I think I was one of the first people reading them because that's when they first came out.
Yeah, 20 years ago, I
20
think.
years ago
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
So maybe not the first, but I
Close
was
to the first.
I was so excited to discover the temperaments through your books.
Great.
And I was so benefited by it. All my relationships have been benefited by it. My relationship with my husband is now benefited by it, my own children. So you've got this incredible treasure, and I'm just thrilled to dive in with you all.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
It's very nice to say.
Yeah.
For
beautiful.
folks who are meeting you for the first time, give us a little bit of each of your background. And also, congratulations on almost 50 years married.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
That's very, very awesome.
Yeah. You want to go first?
Yeah, well, or you go first.
All right. I'm phlegmatic, so I'll do what I'm told. So I'm a licensed as a marriage therapist, but I spent half my professional life working for profits. And then in 2002, I started, co-founded the Alpha Mega Clinic, which was an attempt to integrate the Catholic faith with mental health in Northern Virginia and in D.C. and Maryland. And it turned out to be pretty successful, and I really enjoyed it. It worked well. And then I was asked, and I interviewed and became the president and CEO of Catholic Charities for the Diocese of Arlington. And now I'm back in private practice, having retired from that, seeing clients, mostly marriage and couples therapy, where you have 4 kids, all married, all with kids. We have 11, soon to be 12 grandkids. Mm-hmm. So we're very blessed, and we live in Northern Virginia. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you?
Yeah, well, I'm not as distinguished. But so let's see, I have a master's in philosophy, and well, we've been married for almost 50 years. Wow. And so most of the time I was a homemaker, and but I was always also writing. So I always had these little side jobs of whatever I was, blogging for Catholic Match for a long time. And that was one of them. Eventually we stumbled on the temperaments. Well, because of his background in psychology, and me, I had been reading a book by Jordan Amen, a Dominican, it was called Spiritual Theology, and it introduced me to the temperaments from a Christian perspective. And I hadn't realized the underpinning of the faith in terms of the temperament and how useful it was in terms of the spiritual life and just our daily life and raising kids and all that kind of stuff. And that really kind of fired me up. And that's when we started writing the book, and the first book anyway. And then we subsequently wrote 3 books on temperament and a game and several other books on other subjects.
So you have these 3 flagship books, we can call them: The Temperament God Gave You, The Temperament God Gave Your Spouse, and then The Temperament God Gave Your Children.
Yeah.
And all of them share a framework of temperaments.
Yes.
And today, personality tests and assessments and understanding how you show up in the workplace. I mean, all of these tools to try to understand oneself and other people so we can work together, I think are very popular. But I have the sense that temperaments seem to be a kind of a forgotten art, and some people aren't even aware of what they are or how they work. So first, give us a just overview of what are the temperaments and why they matter. And I'm throwing a lot out here all at once, but also the history here, because this is a framework that far precedes a lot of the tools and the tricks that people use today. It's an ancient framework.
Yeah, exactly. Goes all the way back to Hippocrates, father of medical science. And he was the one, we think, to first use the words of the temperaments that we use in our books, but the choleric or choleric, melancholic, sanguine, and phlegmatic. And we think he was the very first. And he ascribed it to certain parts of the body, bodily functions or whatever. But subsequently, it definitely had this long history and a venerable history even within the church. And do you want to take over?
Yeah, tell us what are the four temperaments?
I think, like Laraine said, the four temperaments that we talk about, and by the way, most psychologists will not use the four temperaments as we describe them, the choleric and the melancholic and the sanguine and the phlegmatic. But they'll be studying reactivity. Temperaments is the science of reactivity. How do people tend to react with the same or different stimuli? And so therefore, it's very, very important. And the church is always kind of taken to it because it allows free will. So it's not it's kind of an alternative to behaviorism, which is you're nothing but your environment makes you into. And it's also a little bit grounded in the human body. So the four temperaments are, I'll go through a couple. You want to pick a couple? Sure, yeah. So the phlegmatic is the temperament, which is really just trying to get along. It's the ideal of the phlegmatic, I am a phlegmatic, so I know it well, is really just to try to cooperate with people, integrate with people, be a team player, not call too much attention to myself, and kind of make things work. The asset, of course, with that beautiful temperament is team player cooperation. You always need that, right? The challenge for the phlegmatic, however, is interpersonal conflict. Phlegmatics are the least naturally confident. So sometimes they're the least naturally competent, and they have low self-worth sometimes. So when they see stress or difficulties, they sometimes can back up on it. So that's where they need to change and grow. Another temperament would be, let's say, the melancholics. The melancholics have this beautiful interest in the ideals of life, truth, beauty, grace, freedom. They really believe in that stuff, and they really focus on it. Different than a goal where you're just kind of knocking something off. These are high ideals. So thank God there's a temperament that really loves that and thinks about it all the time. And that really energizes everything and everyone to say someone's keeping the ideals on the front page so we can all grow. The challenge for the melancholic, though, is they sometimes can be perfectionistic. Well, this isn't quite living up to what I thought, or this comes a little bit short, and they get deterred by that. Or ambiguity can sometimes puzzle a melancholic. Go, well, why aren't things working out better? Or why isn't our marriage better? Or what's going on? So that's the challenge for the melancholic.
Yeah. And in terms of reaction, so like the choleric or choleric, you can say it either way. I've looked it up many times. And they have quick, intense, and long-lived reactions. So they tend to be decisive and tenacious and driven to follow through, very persevering. They set a goal and they, follow it. And sometimes they're accused of rolling over people and as they're, in the process of getting to the goal, or of being argumentative and loving to debate. I like to say that our love language is arguments. No, but it's just that we do enjoy a debate.
You're saying we? Are you a choleric?
Yes. Okay. So I do enjoy.
Truth comes out already. Okay.
I do enjoy a debate, a good debate. It's like let's argue about this, but not in a mean sense. But anyway, okay. And then so let's see. Anyway, so intense, long-lived, and reactions. And then the sanguine has intense reactions and quick reactions, but short-lived. So they tend to be very enthusiastic at the outset, very oftentimes impulsive, very optimistic and hopeful and generous and spontaneous, and they're the life of the party and they love to talk and all this kind of stuff. But they can be forgetful, and they're like butterflies that flit from flower to flower, and they have one, when they're kids, they have one hobby that they love, or they want to take up tennis, and then next week it's golf, and they've dropped tennis, and you bought all the tennis equipment, and now it's golf, and now I have to buy golf clubs too, and then a week later it's on to something else, so they tend to have that quick, intense, but short-lived. And then to go back to where we started with the phlegmatic, they have that even keel reaction. That's what makes them they're so chill. Like, they're the people that you say, oh my gosh, what a nice guy. He's so chill. I just, what a great guy. That's what
you're a phlegmatic.
That's what when I first met him, I was like, wow. And also, gosh, he was so deep. He was so introspective.
So do opposites often attract? You're a phlegmatic, you're a choleric.
I think so.
You say these are
Oftentimes.
opposites.
I mean,
but not always. Yeah,
definitely not always, but often. Yeah.
It's summertime. It's the time of barbecues and cookouts. It's time to get your Good Ranchers subscription going on. Good Ranchers sources 100% of its chicken, its beef, its pork, its fish from the United States. You might not be aware of this, but 85% of the meat that you may buy in the grocery store, or the chicken, is actually from outside of the United States. They'll put product of the USA on there, but it's actually imported in from other countries. And the quality can be hit or miss. With GoodRanchers.com, you know exactly where your meat is coming from. Local American farmers and ranchers. And you know that the best cuts of the meat have been made and carefully vacuum sealed in each individual package so that there's nothing wasted. So if you go to GoodRanchers.com today, pick any bundle, any subscription box, it's delivered right to your door. You get a full $40 off your order, plus a free add-on of meat for life. Your choice of Wagyu burgers, delicious, hot dogs, bacon, or chicken wings in every box for the life of your subscription. Just use the code Lila at checkout. Use the code Lila at checkout at Good Ranchers for $40 off your order, lifetime free add-on, as well as fast and free shipping. Enjoy your American meat delivered.
But like in a business, say you have a business, you want someone who can really get the big vision in the picture. That's usually the leader, and because we have to see where we're going and how we're going to get there and all that. But you have to have somebody watching all the little details of the bills being paid or this. So to have a well-roundedness, I think, strengthens relationships overall. On the other hand, when you do meet someone with your same temperament, that's where you're like, God, what a connection.
So simpatico, yeah.
Or sometimes you're going to be opposite temperament, a little edgy, not sure, kind of thing. All that gets worked out. So I don't think there's any hard and fast rule.
Right.
Even think about our kids. Some of them married the same temperament, some married opposite, but they're all seem happily married. So
the ones who married the extroverts who got married, the choleric sanguine who married a choleric sanguine, they had the biggest wedding party you have ever seen. The photographer couldn't get all the bridesmaids and the groomsmen in the picture.
So the choleric and the sanguine are the extroverts, and the melancholic and the phlegmatic are the introverts.
That's how we see it. That's exactly how we see it.
And so is the sort of framework that everybody has a dominant one of these four, and then they have a secondary that is not as dominant, or how do you see that?
Probably, or maybe equally. It could be. I don't think it's like a science, so it's not. It's like you could be 51-49. I don't know. It's not.
I mean, if you said to somebody, the person in the next room is a choleric, you'd have a little idea, maybe sort of. But if you said they're choleric melancholic, you'd have a better idea. And that's probably, so we think most people have a primary temperament, dominant, and then a secondary. That's pretty much how we see it. Because that one maybe is a lead, the other maybe more of a rudder, but it does make a difference what your primary or secondary temperament is in terms of how you might tend to react. I want to be clear too, not putting anybody in a box. I mean, this is not a personality thing. So if you know your temperament, you don't know your personality. That's much broader than your just temperament. Temperament is just a factor in there. And it's how you tend to react. And how you tend to react is not how you have to react. You mean, we may be a young melancholic and go, I don't want to go to any parties unless I know everybody there. No, okay, well, how many parties you've been to? Probably none, or very few, right. But okay, I don't. So that would be maybe considered more kind of an immature way to look at it, giving into your temperament. Whereas that person goes, well, listen, I'll introduce you to a couple people and you'll feel more comfortable and da-da-da. So that would be an example. If you just give into your temperament, you'll grow less. On the other hand, sometimes your temperament is just right on. It's just accurate. But you want to know how you react, because sometimes that's not the way you want to respond.
Right.
I think a lot of our growth and our ability to have bonds, relationships, and even grow in our faith is, do we respond with love, with prudence, with fortitude, courage, whatever is needed? Do I give the response that's needed here that is the right one? Not just, do I just react out of my temperament? So we like to say it doesn't put you in a box, but it gives you a little hint about how you lean and how you can grow.
Yeah. So you mentioned Hippocrates earlier and the ancient element of this, and I think that's like 400 BC. So we're talking really, even before Christ. But this has been a tool that's been used throughout the church, throughout Christianity in the last 2,000 years. Can you share a little more about what that's looked like in sort of the spiritual traditions and sort of the classic approach to temperaments, and how it's been used as a formation tool to support virtue building ultimately and growth in individuals?
Well, I think like say seminaries and places like that, when they have a young man come in, just to give one kind of example, it could be used for marriage too, but let's say come in and say, wow, this guy really has an ease of forgiving. Just no big deal. I just asked him to go apologize to that guy down the hall for what he did, and he just did it like that, no big deal. Then I have another guy who did the same kind of mild crime, whatever it was, and I was talking to him, and then he comes back for spiritual director 2 weeks later, I just really didn't have the time. I just didn't make the opportunity to do it. And so you go probing, and just that would be really hard for him to ask for forgiveness for some reason. Might be his temperament, could be something his family of origin, but it might be his temperament. Or somebody else, you say, listen, we have something we have to get going. I think it's really important. You got to get moving on this. I'm going to put you in a parish that has these features, da-da-da-da-da. I really have to have you hit the ground running or whatever like that. And some guy goes, great, can't wait, I'll do it. Boom, tries it, maybe fails or succeeds, but is going. Then the same person gets the same assignment of the same similar kind of parish, and you go, wow, I didn't think it'd be that hard. I get this kind of pushback. I don't know what to do with the kind of pushback. So a lot of that is just temperament. So if you're a spiritual director or a spouse or it's one of your kids, you have a very good idea now how to mentor or lead or what the obstacles might be. And a lot of it will come down to, at least from the temperament, how you tend to react to this. So when you have a big challenge, how do you tend to react? You go, I'm on it, I want to go after it. Or do you go, oh my God, I don't think so. So that's very helpful, I think, in terms of personal growth, but also interpersonal growth. If you know your kid's temperament, you have a pretty good idea. I mean, not a textbook or playbook kind of idea, but a pretty good idea what might be challenging and might be quite easy. And so temperaments are helpful with that. Yeah. How do we tend to react? But just to kind of highlight it, it doesn't mean we have to react that way. It's just how we tend to react. Does that make sense?
But I do think you did speak about the history of it too, and I think it was used as long ago as maybe in the early monasteries, way back before they even had and you're talking about spiritual direction. Yeah, what did they do before they had all the new, way of analyzing, all the psychology that we do today? Back in the day, they were looking at temperament. So I think that's why there is this history that goes all the way back. And there's even one Pope John Paul I, nobody knows anything about him. He was the only Pope for 33 days. Yeah, and but he wrote a letter to Hippocrates in which he described the four temperaments. And he gave in his letter, he gave each of the different temperaments the same task, and then he described how they did that task, and it was really clever. It was very funny. Turns out he's a good writer. The first, like the choleric. So what they were supposed to do is climb the sheer face of a cliff, and the choleric goes, "This is nothing. I'm on it." He climbs the cliff, and then he tells it. Then the phlegmatic says, "Okay." He's very thoughtful and very methodical, very slow, very like, okay, I'm probably going to need climbing shoes. Probably going to let me measure the height of the, of the mountain that I have to climb, and let me see what else would I need. What should I pack in my backpack? And then he's like, well, maybe I can do it. And then the sanguine's like, this is nothing. This will be a lark. Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Yes, let's do it right now. And he gets like 1/10 of the way up and goes, oh my gosh, it's way too hard. Never mind. I think I'll go off to the jungles, of Africa. That sounds exciting, And then the last one is the melancholic. He gives the task to the melancholic. And melancholic goes, are you crazy? Are you trying to kill me? And so it's like, absolutely no way am I going to climb that. But it was funny.
EveryLife.com is America's pro-life baby diaper and wipes company. I love EveryLife.com, and I use EveryLife diapers and wipes for my little ones because these are a best-in-class product that are clean. There's no harmful dyes or fragrances or phthalates in this product. It is designed to be healthy for your little one and good for your little one's skin. If you go to EveryLife.com/join today, by joining the Changing Lives Club, you not only get 10% off your monthly diaper and wipe subscription, in addition to that, you'll get a free tote bag, and EveryLife.com will donate a box of diapers and wipes to a mother and baby in need. And I'm excited to share, EveryLife.com is now offering training pants for your little one. These are 12-hour leak-proof training pants, pull-ups for that little one that is maybe potty training. You got to check them out. That's EveryLife.com/join. Use the code Lila. Do you think that the current state of psychology today and psychoanalysis and all the field of psychology and psychiatry at large of the last 100 years has invented or discovered a framework that is better than temperaments? And I'm going to guess what the answer is going to be because you're obviously promoting this framework. I guess what I'm trying to get at here is this framework, in your view, universally useful? And it's not something, it can be something that can be iterated on, but really we should, pay attention to the ancients.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think that it's still alive just because the ancients had it. I mean, it would have to survive the kind of modern testing. And there's been some psychologists that have studied the temperaments and psychiatrists that have studied the temperaments. Again, like Laraine said earlier, they tend not to use the same terms. They're going to study, and little things like a baby in the crib, and a new person walks in. Some kids go, "Wow, who are you?" And other kids just start crying. What does that tell you about them? And so I think the science of studying the reactions of people are very important. And then more sophisticated ones where a lot of these patterns don't seem to be behaviorally or culturally motivated. It's like this kid comes from a family of outgoing, congenial, sanguine type people, but this kid, when he sees a new face, he is really upset. So that's where it kind of comes. There seems to be something going on here other than just the environment. Now, we think the church is always going to be a little more interested in that, because I don't think the church is ever going to kind of buy into a radical behaviorist model. I mean, education is important, formation is critical,
yes,
but there's going to be something else involved. So I think in that respect, the church likes the temperaments because it's an alternative to a kind of a radical behaviorism. It's also maybe an alternative to some of the Freudian ideas that are so strong and so hard. So I think that there's always room for the temperaments, but is it the best thing or the only thing? Again, we don't think it's a theory of personality. We think your personality is much broader, and there's a lot more research on neuroscience now, other things that can enrich the thing. But we think temperament is a part of a person, is a very important part. So that's, I guess that's where we'd commit. Yeah.
What would be the other parts of a personality? So if temperament's a piece. Yeah.
So there's like both, the nature and the nurture controversy thing. Well, it's both, right? So there's both nature, what you're born with, like maybe your biology, and temperament would go into that box. But then there's also the culture that you grow up in, and there's your family of origin. We were talking earlier about the
birth
big,
order.
There's birth order. That's environment, that because you definitely treat that firstborn differently than you do your other subsequent ones. And then there's so your education, some people went to public school, some people went to Catholic school, some people were homeschooled, so all these things impact, plus your own choices that you make throughout your life. That's going to have an impact on your ultimate personality. And the thing that we believe is so crucial is that we're always free. We're fundamentally free. We're created in the image and likeness of God. So we're free to choose to follow God's will, to receive His grace, and to grow in virtue. So we're very, very adamant that temperament is not putting us in a box. It's just giving us an insight into how we naturally respond. Just like if you were, you're a left-handed, you write with your left hand, you're not going to force your kid anymore to write with they used to do that, I think, in the old days, but we're not going to force the kid to write with his right hand if he's naturally a left-handed child. Or if he's a lefty, and he's pitching, right? Isn't that supposed to be a really good thing? So you want to encourage that, So, so that's a natural gift and a natural strength. We think the temperaments are a gift from God, and it just tells you kind of how you're inclined to react, all things being equal. But you don't have to respond to situations just out of your temperament. May be the right way to respond, or it may require you to do something outside of your comfort zone, as they say.
You have a therapy practice, and you have raised, together 4 children, and I've spoken, I think, to, I don't know, hundreds. You've done hundreds of speaking events, talked to thousands of people at this point about all of this. How is the temperament framework used when you're approaching, let's say, a client, a patient, I should say, and how do you determine what their temperament might be? And then how does that help you with your therapeutic goals with a patient?
That's a really good question. Whenever I get a new referral, I do offer them the option, but I don't make a requirement to take a temperament test. It's temperamentquiz.com, which is
we're going to do reliable. It on the show, guys. I'll keep going, but
temperamentquiz.com. There you go.
Yeah.
And so when they come in, I say 90% of the people will fill that out, so they'll have an idea of their temperament. When I have an idea of their temperament, I have a pretty good idea of several things. I'm not going to put anybody in a box, but just how things lean. Also, if it's a couple, I'll have both of theirs, and that's see where there might be some strengths and challenges that might be there. But I mean, knowing the temperament will tell me, first of all, maybe what are some strengths that they probably have. So if someone comes in choleric sanguine, I'm not surprised that they'll probably be friendly and outgoing and probably on time, and they'll want to get results right away, or they're going to be out, that kind of thing. So I'll make some minor decisions, but it'll tell me some strengths that they probably have. I only say probably because there are some exceptions. Also, some things that I might anticipate might be harder for them. I mean, usually if I see a choleric, they have a harder time being patient and a harder time being empathic, and almost all clinical change requires patience, calmness, and a new approach. So sometimes that's harder for a choleric. So I know that coming in. So I'll have a pretty good idea of some strengths and weaknesses, but also concomitant that I have them fill out, 3 pages of their life story, and I'll just try to integrate them together. But it shows me pretty much, one of the things that temperaments is really great at, I want to highlight, is that it puts a pause to the temptation to judge somebody who's different from you as being bad.
Yeah.
We think that's original sin. If you're not like me, there's something wrong with you. The problem with that model, of course, is that unless somebody is just like you, the rest of the other 3 temperaments, which is 75% of the world, will be out. So that can't be the right model. So temperaments gives you a nice pause. And one of the things, particularly psychotherapy in the last 25 years, is something like, I guess the church knew way back with the monks in the desert, was before you can make a significant change, you've got to be calm. Got to be calm to kind of refigure how you're going to respond to that thing. And with the temperament, you'll have a pretty good idea of what the strengths and weaknesses on being calm. Okay, so I think that's invalid, because I was a therapist, as a change agent, as a leader, as a parent. I'm trying to find that way. How can I help this person overcome a certain problem? And just knowing the temperaments will give me some ideas of things that might work or might not. I find with a choleric, you say, well, this might be too big a challenge for you. You let me know. But I think you can maybe figure out a way to go to some of your kids' ball games, still make a ton of money. I've met many people that do. Do you think you can do that? And most cholerics they'll take that challenge. You say the same thing.
I will be relational.
Yeah, I can make money and I can go to my kids' ball games, that kind of thing. Yeah. Whereas you say that to a phlegmatic, they might go, yeah, I mean, it's just, I just can't pull it off. You're right. I just don't have what it takes to do that. So I might say it more like, wow, you have so many strengths, so many things you're doing real well. And now you're trying to figure out how to find that balance. If you want to be really successful, to keep your kids in Catholic school or Christian school, but you got your work responsibilities, but you want to go to some of their ball games and stuff. So you're doing so many things really well to build their confidence, because their confidence tends to be low. Let's see if we can add that new thing in an incremental way that can help you. So that they're more likely, I think, my experience, to find that model better. So it's I'm trying to motivate the same behavior, but I might use it a different way based on the temperament.
That's so fascinating.
That makes sense, yeah.
It's very fascinating and it's so useful. And immediately I'm thinking as a parent, but I know people listening might be thinking of their friend or their spouse or someone they need to motivate at work, you know, as a boss or a colleague. And it's so powerful, because once you get a sense for what is the motivating approach for this unique human being, you can unlock greatness. You can unlock so many things.
Right.
Unlock greatness. I like that.
7 Weeks Coffee is America's pro-life coffee company on a mission to fund the pro-life movement and help moms and babies in need. My favorite is the Ethiopia medium roast. Its notes are smooth, chocolate, and floral. It is absolutely delicious. You have all kinds of blends available on the 7weeks.com website. What I love about this coffee is it is from the top 1 or 2% of beans in the world, and it's also mold-free, pesticide-free, ultra-low acid, and organically farmed. And this is where you and I come in. Not only can we subscribe to 7 Weeks Coffee and get the most delicious coffee delivered right to our door, we know that with every single purchase we make at 7 Weeks Coffee, they are donating a full 10% to pregnancy resource centers in need. And a huge congratulations to 7 Weeks Coffee for hitting over $1 million donated to pregnancy resource centers and moms and babies in need. Go to 7weekscoffee.com today. Subscribe and save a full 15% off your order. And when you use the code Lila, you get an additional 10% off your first order. That's a full 25% off your first order at 7weekscoffee.com, and you'll also get a free gift. Order today and help fuel the pro-life movement.
We kind of know intellectually that everybody's different, but I really, until I knew about temperaments, I really did think art was just like me, only bad. You know, I mean, I did. Like, I was like,
guilty as charged.
At first, I was talking to you earlier about he's so mysterious, and he's, he's so deep and so thoughtful, when I first met him. And I'm like, and he's also, he's so chill. He's so laid back. Wow. He's just like so perfect. And then after a while I get to know him, and I'm like, how come you don't ever want to go to a party or anything? Or how come you don't how come when you come home, you don't want to talk to me? Like, he had already used up all his words at work, and it comes, I've been with the kids all day or something. And, and then he's just, and I'm like, I want to talk. Let's go out. Let's go do something. Let's go do, and he's like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong? And I'm thinking there's something wrong with him, or with the kids. If you have a child that's exactly opposite, you think maybe there's something wrong with the child, or maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe I'm a bad parent. And so we say it's like possibly neither. You're not a bad parent. The child is not bad. It could just be a temperament issue. And that's like one of the crucial things, I think, to understand that really helps.
That's so fascinating. You were describing if there's somebody that you want to have them going to the kids' baseball game, and you're with this patient and they're having all these other things they're balancing. And for the choleric, however you want to say it, it's challenged. Like, I bet you can do it. Like, or I don't know what the words you use, but.
Yeah, because I'm presuming if they're choleric that they have strong self-image. They're not terrified of problems. But they sure don't like to be left out, and they sure don't like to be told that they're not capable of something. And so sometimes sharing, I know some guys make more money than you, big guy, and they go to their kids' ball games and their business. Or we were driven by a golf course. There are a bunch of Toyotas and Mazdas. I don't see that. I see really expensive cars. These guys and gals have real expensive jobs. Somehow they can play golf every week and pay the bills. Now, I don't know exactly how they do it. I'm not, but
that's motivating to some
it's
people.
Motivating, right, to some people. Now, people with low self-worth, they go, further evidence why I'm a failure. Thank you. Thanks, Bennett.
But for the phlegmatic, because I think that was your second example you used, to them, they hear that and they're like, I guess I suck. Right. I'm just like, yes, I should show myself out, And it's not even, you said the term self-worth, and they may have negative self-worth. Right. Is that really what it is? Or is that really just a temperament of not as much natural confidence?
Yes.
I think that's what it is. I mean, it could be other things too, like maybe a parent that berated them and drove their self-worth out. But let's say from the temperament point of view, it is the least self-confident temperament. They're the nicest. They get along with people. They're cooperative. Those are great assets. But that's the challenge. So when you're raising, I could give you an example. One of our kids was phlegmatic, and we kind of talked him into running for student body president. Okay, he never would have ran if we hadn't encouraged it. And so we did encourage him to maybe give it a shot. And because he's phlegmatic, he does what he said. He goes, okay, I'll apply. So he ran.
Obedient.
So obedient, because phlegmatics are very obedient. But he would not have taken the step and the trouble to be a student body president in high school.
How did it go for him?
Great, he won.
Oh, he won?
Yeah.
He won. And what happened?
You saw that in him, huh?
Well, he did.
Wow.
I mean, he had a lot of the qualities.
Everybody liked him.
He's very popular. But what really happened is, so he was, I guess, a junior going into senior year, how he grew as a young man, because what happened is tons of conflict every day, which is what the phlegmatic hates. Bennett, I thought you said we're going to have the prom at the Marriott. Now we're back to the Knights Hall again. You didn't keep your promise. Well, it wasn't my, and then, we're going to have long lunch breaks or whatever he promised when he was running. And, all those things were difficult. So he was learning, which is every leader will face pushback, every leader. And how do you handle that? Well, phlegmatics can be tempted to kind of collapse or just hope it goes away or whatever, or just please everybody. But every time you make a decision, someone likes it, someone doesn't. So he learned to live with that. I guess we coached him and helped him through it and stuff. And he became, I think, a better young man. And that was a real thing he had to learn. And so he's a successful guy now. I think that's part of it. But he wouldn't have initiated that because he was kind of just go with the flow kind of phlegmatic. So we challenged him with it, thought he could do it, knew he could do it, and had to kind of mentor him through it. But that was a good example where he went up against his temperament weakness with support, like love, I guess, and help, overcame it, and then he was a little more bold and more able to take on the challenges ahead. Now he's got 4 kids and challenges every day. So that's a good example where maybe that was a good parenting on our part, is that if we hadn't suggested it, he wouldn't have done it.
And encouraged him.
And encouraged him.
It wasn't just to the choleric, you could throw the gauntlet down. Other people can do this. Why can't I?
Yeah.
But you understood him and you were able to coach him.
Yeah. I think that's right. And all the temperaments have that kind of, some doors fly right open and you go through them, and then others don't. And so as a parent, I think, whatever strength God gave your kids, or your spouse, you want to love that. There's no reason to reduce strengths. Life is challenging. So what do you do about the weaknesses? How can you be a parent or a colleague or a lover or a boss and help them grow over these, how to face these challenges and overcome them? And one of the things you will run into is a variety of things probably, but one is usually the temperament. How does the temperament make this easier or harder? And then you as a mentor or a colleague or lover, you can say, well, I can maybe help work with that and find out what So with the phlegmatic, you do spend more time saying, well, you do so many things well. Well, you really nailed that. Or,
they need more direct
they need
encouragement.
That to be built up. Yeah.
Always reminding them of their successes too. I think that's really important. Because we would always bring it back to, well, remember you used to do this,
and you overcame that.
And you overcame that. And so we would tell them, what, and you don't have to remind the choleric kids. They've got enough pride on there.
Yeah, well, the pride might be their issue.
Yeah,
they think they're the king of every hill, but they're probably not. But you got the other temperaments too, like let's say the sanguine.
Take us to the sanguine and the phlegmatic using that same, the sanguine and the melancholic using that same framework of. I like the framework of the young kid and how you coach them, but the first one that you had about the guy coming into the office who needs to spend more time on the more time going to the kids' baseball games, and
the sanguine already is.
Oh, okay, there you have it. All right.
I would say he's like the sanguine dad, or the sanguine dad is probably the beloved dad of.
He's the fun dad.
Yeah, the fun dad.
The sanguine dad, you might have to worry more about.
You might have to.
Are you work more?
Well, that's right. Are you skipping every board meeting?
Wow.
Or are you because the sanguine is always tempted to whatever the most recent event before them is. That's like when you have sanguine friends when they're with you. You go, God, it's just so great to connect with you again. And then you realize, unless you initiate, You haven't heard from them for 5, 6, 7 months. You go, what's that all about? We seem like we just hit it off. So always with, I think, sanguine, I assume perseverance is the issue.
Yes.
Y'all go to the game. I'll go. Well, you can go. Are you going to go to the games if they lose? You're going to go to the games on the road. You're going to do this, or you're just going to blow off your job, and you can be an unemployed dad. Yeah, it's true. Unemployed dads have more time to go to games, but that's all. So you have to find that. I think that's hard for the sanguine. I would assume the sanguine will struggle with that. You can't just do one thing at a time. You got to kind of match all this, and then they have challenge. Usually, perseverance and distraction is the problem. You know, that kind of thing. They'll show up for the games, but maybe they won't take the kid in the backyard and play catch with them. Because that's a little less inclined to their temperament. That's not so interesting. That's not so glamorous. So you got to watch out for that. That's where you want to help them. That when you go to that game and your kid hits the double and the home run, how'd that happen? Well, you took them out to the ballpark on Tuesday. So those are the kind of things that built the success that happened. So you're always teaching the sanguine. You're happy, go lucky, but to really be happy, you got to take your responsibilities, and that's hard for them. And then the melancholic, it's like the ideals are so great. You always have to connect with the ideals. I think with every temperament, I think everybody. What's your ideal? Once you know somebody's ideal, what are you worth dying for? What do you live for? What's your thing? Once you know somebody's ideals, and then you kind of go from there. But would be is sports really important? Is being there really important?
Sorry to interrupt really quick, but is the melancholic not going to the game or going to the game in this scenario already?
Well, I think this kind of depends. The melancholics can tend to be a little more overwhelmed.
Okay.
Because they do one thing at a time. They put so much attention to what they do. They care about the bottom line and the top line. They don't just rush through things. They really are methodical to get something done. So what sometimes happens is they can obsess on one thing and some other important things don't get done. I think sometimes too, maybe all the temperaments, maybe the melancholic more, a parent just showing up is powerful. Really powerful. It's not the same if you just show up at a meeting, don't say anything at work. They'll really eventually go, why is Bennett here? He doesn't say anything, out. But as a dad or mom, coming to your kid's game and just being there and watching them is unbelievably important. Unbelievable. So sometimes people just need to be educated about that. Being there when your kid has successes or failures, being there, being with them, strengthening the bond is really important. Sometimes I think melancholics understate that. They're more into I have to say something wise or something profound or something really deep. But just being there, even if you get there a couple minute innings late and stay there and you pick him up and you know what he did and you showed your kid. It's funny, they say the parents don't always remember the games they went or not. You ask the kid, was your dad there on that game when you played the Phillies? No, the kids remember if mom or dad were there. So that's something I think with the melancholic. So high ideals, if it's not really grandiose and important, it's not important, but that's not true. So these are just things I think that you're just kind of aware of as people are trying to be better parents, better spouses, better employees, or better employers that help. So this way, the temperaments are helpful with that.
And it's very helpful when you're dealing with like young kids. I think it's very like with our sanguine, we had to like with school. They're the ones that run out the door, and then they have to come in 10 times because they forgot their homework, they forgot their gym clothes, they forgot they forgot to get the permission slip signed. And we like to point out that this is not done out of any ill will. It's not because they're being bad. Where some parents would say, you're so bad. No, it's not badness. It's something in their temperament. So that's another reason we think it's important to understand what the temperament is with your kids, especially because you might judge them, and instead of judging them, saying you're so bad, why can't you remember I always remembered my homework, you would say, no, okay, this kid needs he needs assistance in doing this. So, okay, we need a system for you. We need to put out your stuff the night before, and you don't have to do it with the melancholic child already had it out or whatever. You don't have to do the same things with each child, but with the sanguine, you're going to have to, give him a system for helping him remember what is due. Or he said, our son, sanguine son, when we said, do you have any homework? He would always say no. And then it turned out he was defining homework too narrowly, so it didn't include projects, science fair,
too funny
things down the road. So we had to break everything into little smaller sections and do you have any projects coming due in the next 2 months, and that sort of thing. So like that's where the perseverance part, I think, comes in handy to really teach that virtue. You have to help them, especially when they're kids. Like how can they learn these virtues that they might be lacking?
Some people push back. They say, well, are you guys saying that I have to have a different approach with each one of my kids? And part of us goes, yeah. Same goal, though. So let's say you're raising a kid. I want you to do well in school. I want you to understand the faith as best you can. I mean, at some point you'll say, once you're out of the house, you'll do what you want. But at least in this house, everyone goes to mass, let's say. We expect you to treat people with respect. So maybe you have four or five things, not 20 or 30. And that's going to be across the board with all your kids as a family culture. But you might institute them differently. I mean, we had one example where two of our daughters went to college. The one went to college, was very outgoing, very, very sanguine, loved people. I went to a party on Tuesday and we were worried. We know her history, and she's going to parties on Tuesday. She's just started as a freshman. I mean, the melancholic dad doesn't like that. And so we told her, listen, you want to watch? I don't know, what's with the Tuesday party? Why can't they wait for Thursday or Friday? Then you flip our other daughter, who's very introverted, very melancholic. She told us she went to a party on a Monday or Tuesday, and we were elated. Because
she was studying.
She's a little bookish. She wouldn't always go out on weekends, always had just a few friends. So there she is at college, really having fun, meeting people. So you say, well, that sounds capricious or unfair. Both kids are expected to do really well in school. That we don't change the goal.
Our goal is the same.
The goal is the same. But what the strengths and weaknesses are different. So yeah, great. Go. I'm glad you're enjoying it. We know she'll study. She'll study. The other one, we're worried if she parties too much. So it's they're all in the same family with different temperaments, and the parenting might be a little different, a little nuanced, but it's not complete. The goals are the same. I mean, I don't want to go to church because of this or that. Well, you're going to go to church, then we can figure out what to do about it or whatever. But when you're an adult, you'll make your decisions. But at least for these first 18 or 20 years, whatever you're living at home, that's just a kind of hard.
Yeah, we would say yes. You always had to go to church. So, but you could pick the choice of time. You could pick what you did. We had people do different, like do some, whatever way you might want to help out in the church as well.
Every kid had to help out. So when our one son goes, okay, I'll be an usher at 12:30 Sunday night. We're going, okay. He can't drive. That means
within reason.
Yeah, no, he did. Yeah,
I thought that was beyond reason, but we did it. And it all worked out. Yeah. Okay, so that's right. He wants to sleep in and then go, okay, as long as you're going to church. That was the deal. So we accommodated to that.
How about discipline with temperaments for parents, especially of very young children?
There's nuances with that too. So like you would think the choleric or the choleric, that they tend to be this sort of, things seem to bounce off them pretty well. But when they also are the ones that could rebel if you come down really hard and you say, this is the way it is in our house and that's it, and no ifs, ands, or buts. They could be the kind, and we've read a number of older documents actually on the temperaments that say they are the kind that are going to harden their hearts then. And there's that St. Paul to the Colossians, I think, do not provoke them, lest they lose heart. That's
good.
But so in a sense, like you have to be careful with the very, very sensitive ones, but also with the very, like, so the choleric.
Here we go. Excuse me. Colossians 3:21 truthfully tells us from the Holy Scripture, fathers, do not provoke your children so that they do not become discouraged. Exactly what you were just, you got it, Laraine.
Yeah. But also the choleric, what you can do though, you can say, look, this is what I need you to do because, and you give rational arguments, and they like that. They will take to that. They won't like it if you just say, just do it. They like to feel like they're in control, because even when they're little, they think they're in charge, and they want to have control over things. So you give them options, you can help me do this, or here you can choose between this and this, or, and if something they really want to do, they think they should be able to do it, they're getting older or whatever, then you say, these are the reasons why we're not letting you do this. As opposed to just, no, and I said so, and that's it. That kind of approach doesn't really work with them either, even though you think it might not have that negative effect of like really having them lose heart, maybe not, but they could become rebellious.
So it sounds like what you're saying is regardless of the temperament, being very tough with one's kids is not a good path, generally speaking, in terms of
like tough love.
In terms of the sort of like, yelling obviously might be a bad thing unless there's an emergency and you're trying to get someone to stop something. But that would be an example of something that's not helpful regardless of the temperament. Right. But in terms of disciplining or just shepherding, guiding these different temperaments, especially for very young children, how would it look different? Let's say for a 4-year-old or a 3-year-old who's a sanguine versus a phlegmatic in how you approach that child when they are doing something disobedient or they're doing something that they shouldn't do, and you want to, protect them and guide their behavior a different direction. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think if you have a young extroverted kid, but I want just kind of preface to one of my comments here is one of the big changes is with the neuroscience now is more emphasis on teaching kids to self-regulate rather than to be obedient to you. And one thing I kind of like about that, because the problem with the obedience model is it's necessarily going to run out. The fourth commandment doesn't say obey your parents and your mom. It says honor them. Because built in there is I might go a different direction. So it's built in. So someday your kids in their act of individuation will make a decision that may or may not agree with what you think is the way they should go. Now, you got 20 years with them, which is a long time. You should be able to have an impact on your kids. But it's built in that at some point, and the mission of raising a kid is they should launch and be good adults, good people, doing good stuff, and God-fearing. That would be like an ideal, I think, just about for every parent. But how that will play out, we'll find out. But so the other alternative model is, and I got this actually from clients once I said to the dad, what do you want your kid to be like? And he goes, I want him to have all the best options in life. And I go, well, maybe you can fine tune that a little bit. That's pretty cool. That's when you look at your son, that's what you're thinking. Yeah, I want him to, when he leaves the home, to have a lot of good options. I said, what do you want to have as a mom? And she goes, I want my kid to have a deep foundation of love and to feel secure. And I go, wow. What a vision you guys got. If you get that together, I think that covers everything. I want him to reach for the stars, and I want him to feel solid and confident and competent. And I think that was great. So then the parenting would be, okay, he doesn't want to go to a birthday party because he's too shy. Well, that's going to hurt both ends, particularly you don't have friends. You have to develop the art of making friends. So you think you would coach that kid on how to go to a party and maybe pick out 2 kids you like and hang around with it. You would teach him the art of how to go to a birthday party and have fun, because that's going to be a step he'll need if he's going to be a kid who sees the options of life, that kind of thing. Or, you can go to that party and Mom and I will be here and we'll hear about it. So the depth part. So always going after those 2 things. So it's more of, a sanguine kid is more likely maybe to be loud at church or eruptive at church or whatever. Okay, so you're gonna have to coach him or her through that. Say, this is called a church. That's called the playground. Over there, after church, we'll go to there. You can scream and yell. We'll go to church, and then we'll go back there. And this is screaming, yelling place. This is quiet place.
So we motivated our sanguine with something fun after. So whenever there was something negative that we had to impart, we would follow it up with, and then we'll go get ice cream. Or something
after the March for Life, we always went to ESPN Zone, and I bought everybody.
We took them to March for Life for every year.
A lot of kids wanted to go to March for Life because we took them
when they were babies.
So I mean, that's where I think that the helping them to self-regulate, helping them to learn.
That's a good point.
Learn to be, I can be quiet at church. I can be loud on the baseball field, and I'm loud at recess. Okay, I got that. That's a good skill to learn. But if you just let a sanguine go and be loud wherever they want, they won't learn. Then you have the other side, which is the phlegmatics. They're not causing too much trouble. They're not doing too much. They may not get good grades. They can kind of get lost in the shuffle, because they...
I kind of think that's where when we talked about low self-confidence, I think it's because they're always so even-keeled. They could get they can get forgotten, especially if you have a big family.
And especially if they're a middle kid too.
Yeah, if they're a middle
They can
kid
get lost in the shuffle.
Everybody else, like the choleric is out, arguing, and the sanguine is talking, and the
melancholic is writing in their journal,
or they're having a meltdown over in the corner, because
Sure,
melancholics can do that. So because of the sensitive ones, really sensitive, then you have the phlegmatic just being even keeled, quietly playing over there in the corner with his Matchbox toys. I remember that's what ours would just be quietly playing, and you're just like, oh yeah, he's still there, isn't he? And it's like if you're getting overlooked, after a while they might think, well,
yeah,
I'm not, he's not the squeaky wheel, and so then he might internalize that and somehow think that he's somehow less than, in some sense, and so that's why you have to counter that with all the building up and the encouragement, I think.
But with the real action, so let's say I'm a phlegmatic dad, and the sanguine kid's over there doing, everyone's being quiet. The phlegmatic kid's not being trouble. We got the homework. Peace. Good. I don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
See, that's something you got to watch for as a phlegmatic dad, because I just like it calm and peaceful. Well, actually, he's not doing his homework. Or
he's being quiet, but he's not.
Yeah, that's right. And nothing. What is he doing over there? By the way, I don't think it's homework. It's something else. Or this one, is just knocking his work off right away so he can do something else. But his grades aren't that bad. So I have to lean into this kid and go, "Can I take a look at your work?" Well, that's going to make it inconvenient for me because I want to relax. I had a hard day at work, so I have to overcome that. So many times Laraine would notice something about our kids that I would just kind of go, "Is that a problem?" She goes, "I think it might be." I go, "Okay." And then you have to kind of lean into it. So some of it's the leadership. She sees things I see, and vice versa. But you got to watch out as a parent. I might just be settling into my temperament. I had a hard day at work today. Do I have to correct the kids' homework too? I don't think so. That's why I put them in the school. That kind of stuff. Well, is that really the truth, or is that a temperament cave? You get a push. You're still on duty here. You've got to check the kids' homework. What's he doing watching TV? I thought he had a test tomorrow. Well, he said he's fine for the test. He'll be okay. Well, I've heard that one before. So that's where you got to look at yourself as a parent and go, where are my weak spots in my leadership or being a good parent? Maybe I'm too impatient, or maybe I'm too patient. And the temperaments will help with that.
They're self-knowledge tools. And then to the points you're making about children, they're and other people. They're just tools to understand other people and know how to relate to them and help them and love them. I mean, in the end is for all of this is love. Let's go to how to determine someone's temperament. You've obviously shared some kind of sketches of what the temperaments might look like. You have this really handy tool, temperamentquiz.com. Okay. Well, actually, before we do it for me,
wow.
Do you have a guess from what my temperament is? I know we talked about this a little bit before. Okay, we sat down together.
So I had guessed choleric, melancholic. And melancholic's got to be there because, first of all, I think you have great attention to detail, high ideals, noble causes, beauty. Everything is beautiful here. You dress beautifully. The whole thing. Well, melancholics do.
She's mothering me right now. Melancholic. Thank you.
Like all these. I mean, I would guess. Sensitive, artistic. Music. You probably are musical or enjoy music and all those kinds of things. So I would say definitely melancholic. And I had said choleric because of your leadership at a very young age. But that could be, having spoken with you, perhaps that was, I rashly judged you there. So who knows? Well,
I mean, I've seen you, I've known a little bit about you, but I've always mostly knew your headlines. So yeah, it's tempting just to go to choleric. Yeah. So I guess I would have the same assessment. So both of us actually
also
were wrong.
Being a leader.
Sounds like both of us were wrong.
Leader in your field, also taking on really challenging and
high conflict stuff.
High conflict. Situations, guests or topics that are high conflict. I mean, I think you're extremely brave.
How about doing this show in California? That takes bravery.
I know. Yeah. Like we totally admire you and think you're very, very brave.
That's so sweet. Thank you. So when people, and I think as a working tool, when you're engaging people, your own children, your spouse, friends, you can maybe have assumptions about people and then you get to know them better and you discover there's other factors that are like the thing that seems most clear about their temperament might actually be something they're trying really hard at for certain reasons. And so that's an interesting kind of dynamic, because early on when I first encountered the temperaments, actually through your beautiful books, and my spiritual director when I was, I think, 20 years old the first time, or 19, she said, you're definitely a melancholic. So she called that. But then later on, I remember people telling me, oh, you're very sanguine, but I know those don't often operate together. So let's see how this test goes. We're going to speed through this, and folks listening can check this out at temperamentquiz.com to get a sense for where their temperament might be. Lila, your temperament is phlegmatic sanguine.
Phlegmatic sanguine. Wow.
There's no melancholic here, guys. What happened?
Gosh, we're so wrong.
And there's no choleric.
So that's
what
too bad.
happened?
And I created the test.
Wow.
And I'm so wrong.
72% phlegmatic and 28% sanguine. I have had people tell me before I'm phlegmatic and sanguine, and I've had that one spiritual guide who herself was very melancholic. So maybe that's what she was picking up in me.
Yeah.
She believed me to be melancholic. But yeah. So
there you go.
All right, there you go. So for a phlegmatic sanguine, what are the best, what are there typical careers or interests that they seem to have, or is it really all across the board?
I think we're more comfortable talking about interesting careers because
you're a phlegmatic sanguine, right,
yeah,
Doctor? Oh my gosh,
phlegmatic melancholic.
Sorry, you're
I'm more of a grumpy phlegmatic. You're a happy phlegmatic.
Okay, you're grumpy.
I mean, I think there are people can succeed at all sorts of things, different things, but they're but I think in terms of interest, based on your temperament, you would like people to get along, and cooperation would be a radical of interest to you. You might possibly have some challenges in interpersonal conflict. Phlegmatics tend to be generally less comfortable with conflict, but more so with interpersonal conflict. And so sometimes can be tempted more towards people pleasing and just cooperating.
I think both of those temperaments could be both phlegmatic and sanguine could be people pleasers. So you're getting a double whammy of it.
What people think and how people react.
If someone listening has maybe developed some strong skills, maybe in leadership or dealing with conflict or things like this, and certainly I have had to do that over the last couple decades. But is it along with taking the test, is it useful to go back into childhood and to remember or to ask people that knew you, like your mother maybe or your father, again, provided there's healthy enough dynamics. Okay, what was I like? What were what was in my kind of more primal state like in terms of my natural reactiveness?
Right, because as kids we're more like our temperament. We're closer to our temperament because we haven't had enough time to learn other skills, and we haven't been to school, and we haven't been, we haven't acquired virtues or whatever. And there's so many things we have had. There's a lot of experiences in life that we haven't had as kids. So you're probably more of your pure temperament back then. And didn't you say your mom said you were this happy little
She
child?
did say I was a quiet, peaceful, cheerful people pleaser.
Aw.
So I guess it fit.
She was right. Mom
was
right.
Mom was right.
Again.
Can your temperament change as you age and mature?
We kind of take the stance that we don't think so really, but we should all change quite a bit as the years go by, and that's the acquisition of virtues, and also not just reacting, but calmly making decisions based on what's the best thing to do here.
Right.
If you just always react and just say, the temperament's the way I am, and that's the way I'm going to be, you'll miss a lot of opportunities in life. So I think the real thrust is you understand your temperament. That shows how you lean. But what you want to do is you want to grow to be a more fully rounded person.
You want to grow in virtue, and you want to imitate Christ. We want to become more Christ-like. And for many of the saints, they would you could tell what their temperament was when they were younger. And like Saint Ignatius was really, he was a hothead and he was getting in fights and this and that. And then at the end of his life, they said he was so meek and so humble and so Christ-like. So you would say, oh, he changed his temperament. Well, no, he didn't actually change his temperament. He just grew in virtue. He grew to become more Christ-like. And that's what we all should do. That's our hope, is that we grow in virtue and that we follow Christ ever more closely. And he didn't just react out of, well, I just felt like it. Or, when he turned the tables over, he was doing that. It was very... he knew what he was doing. He always did the perfect thing, and he chose to do the perfect, most loving, the most prudent, most wise thing to do in every moment. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to, learn how to respond that way too.
Do we know what temperament Christ was? Or do we have a guess?
Yeah, we have like a good friend of ours said he thought about it very deeply one time, a priest, and he said he thought Christ was only the good of all four temperaments.
Beautiful.
That's what he
Perfect. He was perfect.
Yeah,
yes, well, he was perfect.
One time he told people to turn the other cheek.
Yeah.
And then another time he walked in and turns over the table. So he has everything at his display. He can be outgoing. He talks to Pilate, but he doesn't talk to Herod. Was he like in a bad mood when he met Herod? And a chatty mood when we met Pilate? No. He just assesses the situation and does the best thing.
No.
So that's how a free man with divine grace acts. He does the best thing at every moment. Now, none of us can get to that, but we do want to try to move more towards that because we, divination, as grace comes into our hearts and souls, we can do things we couldn't do otherwise. So I think that's right. But I was thinking, if you're phlegmatic sanguine, you must be really friendly.
You're like, wouldn't have guessed it.
No, I mean, not a bad thing for a TV host. But I was thinking, if you want to know the classic challenges, the classic challenge for the phlegmatic is interpersonal conflict, and the classic one for sanguine is perseverance. So if you've kind of gone after those,
which you have,
yeah. So if you've kind of gone after those and kind of come to peace with those things,
it's been hard though. It's not easy for me, but
the temperament would indicate that would be hard.
Yeah.
But that another way to look at it, that's kind of the business of being Lila Rose. You got it. Those are the things, if you want to be, successful and more like an apostle or something, those are the things you have to go after. Like I was the president and CEO of Catholic Charities. I was a phlegmatic melancholic, and I really didn't like interpersonal conflict. But after about 2 weeks on the job, I go, oh my gosh, every day it's just an endless stream of conflict.
Yeah.
CEO life, yeah.
Yeah, so I found a priest in the building who was very experienced. It was a similar temperament. And I said, Father, how did you overcome this? He goes, I just grew to love it. I just grew to love conflict. So he kind of changed his passion of aversion to a passion of bring it on.
And he did that as a phlegmatic.
He did that, yeah.
Wow.
And he actually helped mentor me to do it too, because I had no choice.
Do you love conflict now?
No.
I love conflict, except for Laraine.
You're married to Miss Laraine here.
Well, I have to say, I don't think I love conflict.
No, he's much better.
But I'm much better. Yeah. I would say that's accurate. I'm much better. I now, in a leadership position or whatever, I expect conflict. Mm-hmm. I mean, if there's no conflict, there's no leader. If no pushback, there's no leadership. So I see it as a part of the state or whatever, as a parent, and sometimes as a spouse, but more often just as running a business or something. So I expect it. So I've come to peace with that. Of course, there's conflict, and then maybe I'm pretty good at some aspect. But I've also had I've had consultants, mentors. I'm a spiritual director of an outgoing, extroverted wife. So I do have people around that can help me grow in that, because that's not a natural talent for me because of my temperament. Yeah. So yeah.
When it comes to marriage and relationships, and especially when you're giving advice or doing therapy, do you encourage or recommend certain temperaments to pair with other temperaments? And are there temperaments that are like oil and water that you're like, this is going to be tough for a marriage? And I know I'm asking you guys, and you guys are opposite temperaments. So,
no, I mean, we think that whoever God calls you to be with is it's going to be the best situation, and it'll work out.
Obviously, if you marry someone, we call it the endless sleepover. I'm saying yes to her and no to about several billion others. So there must be something there that has to be nurtured and appreciated all through the marriage. There's something really good here that we do that. But then I also have to acknowledge there are some weaknesses I have to overcome to be the best husband and soon to be a best father and now a grandfather. And so it's kind of both and. Appreciate the temperament God gave you, the gifts you got, but also go out and get new ones and overcome some of the weaknesses. I mean, as a phlegmatic sanguine leader,
let's go to the weaknesses.
Yeah, you would have to, you'd have to come to terms with conflict and also persevere, which is hard.
Indecisive, impassive, inattentive, unconcerned, unmotivated, languid,
No, yeah.
Yeah, so
I
for-
wouldn't say that
so,
at all.
so if all those things took you down, you couldn't be the leader you needed to be to do what you're doing.
So you overcame those things.
So and maybe or overcoming them, and maybe in terms of a mentor.
Well, you get
and
special graces because I do think God has given me a special grace of caring a lot about the causes I care about, and so that just they're on your heart. It's like, and that's a calling. You care a lot about something, and it's like God gave you this care, and so that was where maybe the phlegmatic natural challenges might be absorbed or overcome because you care so much.
Well, that ideal of caring. I mean, ideals aren't the same as goals. Ideals are something that pulls me out of myself. It's something I'm reaching towards my whole life, and I'll never totally nail it. I'll never be caring enough. I don't have to care anymore. I mean, or I'm loving. That'll pull you out of yourself and into areas that might be uncomfortable or you don't want to go. So that's a beautiful ideal. And if that's what's kind of driving you, well, to be a caring person is going to be pushback on that. There's going to be challenges in that. But if it's really the ideal that with you define your life, then you'll figure out a way to overcome those things, and that's really important. So I think having the right ideal is really, and ideally having the right ideal. Ideally, that's what Christianity is. It shows us the great ideals, and we give our lives for them, and we can do a lot of things with that. So it's not just me accommodating or me feeling comfortable or me not being stressed. I'm going after an ideal. I understand there's going to be pushback, trouble, difficulties, but God, the joy as I approach this ideal is just so great.
The top thing says yours is a winsome temperament combination, which is an advantage for pro-life work and things like that, because you want to like persuade people. It's not about winning an argument; it's about winning a person. I've got to ask about the idea of playing to one's strengths versus overcoming one's weaknesses. So you've repeatedly shared about the importance of virtue, and Jesus Christ, our model, our Lord, become perfect like I am perfect. So we want to aspire and challenge ourselves. And even in your parenting, how you were working carefully with your different children to help them get out of their comfort zone and grow. But should we be always so focused on where am I lacking and how do I overcome this discomforts? Or should we more focus on these are the strengths that I have, I'm going to double down on both growing these?
Yeah, I think it's both.
Absolutely, both and strengths. You talk about that,
the only thing I think strength from a Christian point of view is you want to be careful that you're not giving yourself all the credit. It's a gift from God, and He did give you some gifts.
Yeah,
He gave all three of us some overlapping gifts, some different gifts. And you don't want to be doing this, because that pride will just take you down. So I think with the right attitude of, I guess you've given me the strengths that I can raise 4 kids and I can be a good husband to Laraine. I guess you've given me that, so I'll do my best. So I think with that attitude towards strengths, but He's given me some talents and gifts that it would be a shame to not use them, to serve Him and to make this a world better place. Now the weaknesses, though. Like St. Paul when he prayed for his weaknesses to go away, and Christ goes, well, I'm not taking it away. My strength's enough for you. I think we all face that in some ways. Gosh, by now I should have lost that weight, or by now I should be more articulate, or by now I should maybe make more money, or by now I should be have a bigger impact on this or that, the other thing. And then you go, well, maybe it's not all about me. Maybe that weakness just puts me on my knees more, and I have to ask the big guy for more help. Maybe that's what it is. It's Pauline that way. It's like, this is a weakness I may always have, but I don't have to have it keep me from serving Him and continuing to grow. I may never be really good at it, but I may be good enough at it to serve Him and to help my family. So I think it's both.
Yeah.
I know there's a big push. I was at a seminary recently. A priest was kind of criticizing us because we were talking about both. He goes, hey, wait, Bennett, you're out of touch. It's strength finders, baby. It's strength finders. Just find the strength of these priests, find the strength of these people, and feed that strength and make them feel good about it. And somebody else worry about their weaknesses. I go, well, Paul's view, is it? I don't know. So I think St. Paul, I guess, may be a good example. He broadcasts his weakness all over the place. Talk about the cross all the time. Well, he's an exceptional guy. I'm not denying that, but I think there's some truth to that for us. So I think, like Laraine said, just both. Yeah. I'm really good at some things. I'm still working on other things. But ideally, in 2 or 3 months or years, I'll be better at those things. Some of them I'll never nail, but I'll be okay with. I'll just do the best I can. I think that's kind of our fate. Do you think it's close? Or
Yeah, I do. I think we have to work on. I think we have to work on the areas where we have the weaknesses in the temperament. That is the clue right there. Our natural weaknesses. That's where we need to try even harder to attain those virtues to counteract those weaknesses. So for the sanguine, we want to encourage our sanguine kids and ourselves, if we're sanguine, to persevere, and to attain self-mastery and self-control and, avoid distractions or whatever. But for the choleric, we have to grow in the virtue of humility and docility. Yeah. I mean, it's crucial. And we already, we have other strengths and maybe natural virtues, but we do need to grow in the virtue of patience and the virtue of obedience and the virtue, for the phlegmatic, you have to grow in holy audacity.
Magnanimity.
Magnanimity, that's another one. And melancholics have to probably grow in the virtue, they probably have to grow in gratitude, I would guess. Mm-hmm. Gratitude, charity, maybe.
It seems harder for them.
Yeah. But like there's it all, so just knowing those, kind of having that in your mind, I think it gives you something to work on. And I think it's important as for spouses and important for as parents that we know these things. Yeah.
Well said.
Beautiful. So such good stuff. How I know people listening are like, let's go on all these there's so many other places to go. So thank you for taking the time you've taken for this with this conversation. How can people read these books? Where can they find them and follow your work?
Well, we publish with both Sophia and I think our Sunday Visitor. They can look them up there if they want to go to the publisher. Or
Amazon too.
But Amazon has them all. If you put in Art Bennett or Laraine Bennett, they come up. And we have a new book we co-wrote with our daughter. They'll find there too on anxiety. So just put us into the Amazon sphere and our name comes up and they can see some of the things we've worked on, I think. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for helping so many people with this work. It's so wonderful. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's been great to meet you and to see that you're sanguine.
I know. Yes, I know. Now I know. Phlegmatics. I hadn't actually taken the test yet on your website, so that it resonates. It resonates.
Well, there you go. All right. Yeah. Well, very good. That's
Thank you so much.
So you'd be a great kindergarten teacher.
That is so funny. Okay.
There you go.
I'll know. I guess I missed my calling.
I don't think so.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of The Lila Rose Show. It was so fun to explore temperaments. Let me know what you all think. Leave your comments in the comment section and go check out Art and Lorraine's beautiful work. Also, make sure you're subscribed if you're not already subscribed, and make sure to leave us a review and 5 stars on podcast app. That helps the show reach more people. A huge thank you to our partner, EWTN, the largest religious broadcaster in the entire world. EWTN is reaching millions of people every single day with the beautiful truth of the gospel. You can watch new episodes of The Lila Rose Show 24 hours before they hit podcast app over at EWTN.com/on-demand.